Welcome, folks. Thank you so much for coming down to Wolfpack Your Lunch. I'm Ashley Black. I'm the program manager with NC State Executive Education. You may have received the invite from me. This actually marks the 1-year anniversary of Wolfpack Your Lunch, so thank you for everyone who's attended in the past. And for those of you that it's your first time, we hope that you'll continue to come back at our Art Space location and also Research Triangle Foundation out in RTP. Today we've got Dr. Chris Hitch. He is the director of the Shelton Leadership Center on Centennial campus, but on NC State's campus. He's also program director for NC State Executive Education. Today he'll be talking about making better high-stakes decisions. So without further ado, Chris Hitch.
Let's be clear. Number one, you never do that for the speaker coming up. You make the speaker work for it. Okay? Number two, y'all have set the bar very high for me. Number two is that this is supposed to be Wolfpack Your Lunch, so I know people are eating. Fully anticipate and expect you to keep eating. There will be a little bit of audience participation a little bit later on, so I'm going to warn you about that up front. But a large part of this is designed to help people come together who have a common interest, get a chance to talk with each other, network with each other, hopefully learn a little bit, and that's why I'm here. Make sense? All right. Now, I used to be a basketball official, so I'm used to projecting. I need to make sure. Those of y'all in the back, hello Trip, can you hear me okay? All right, good deal. Y'all ready to get started? Let's get started. So, here's the situation. Every organization, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're a university organization, whether you're a church, whether you're a solo entrepreneur, whether you are a director or a manager or an individual contributor in a large or small company, everybody is trying to search for a sustainable competitive advantage. Agreed? Yeah. This means yes, this means no. Okay, now that's humor, all right? I am not a funny guy. I will let you know when I'm trying to be funny a little bit later on, okay? Deal? All right. Deal. So, part of that sustainable competitive advantage are your people. And one of the biggest decisions that you make is who you decide to have on your team, and then what do you do to help them with their knowledge, skills, and abilities so they can do what's needed to be done so that your organization grows. And so one of your decisions is people, people, people. And before I go any further, it would be very poor taste for me. Is she even? Where are you, Ashley? Oh, there you are. Okay. The people that I work most closely with here at NC State are people like Ashley Black, Tresson Patterson, and Jamie Wirtz. They've been the ones to help put this on. They've partnered with NC State Alumni Association. Would y'all please join me in thanking them for making sure that everything was came out. I would say that this came off without a hitch, but that would be an attempted humor. Okay? So it's a fascinating experience to try to put your entire professional career on one slide. This is it for me. I have worked in the K-12 school systems. I've worked at a mid-size, I've worked at a startup, I've worked at a mid-size organization, I've worked at the university, both at the GA level. Before I was here, I was over at the light blue school doing executive education, primarily with military, with 1, 2, 3, 4-star admirals and generals. Now I'm here. I can't keep a job, but what I have learned is, y'all didn't laugh. That's true. Y'all didn't laugh. Y'all laughed. Okay. What I have learned is that it does not matter what organization that you're in. Every organization has has similar challenges. You have goals that you have to achieve. You have a strategy that you have to use and apply to be able to achieve those goals, and then you have to work within that black box that's the organization to help align and make that happen. And one of those decisions, and I will suggest to you that one of your decisions, whether you're an entrepreneur or a Fortune 500 or a Fortune 100, one of your competitive advantages is how do you make better decisions? And how do you teach your teams to make better decisions, both low stakes and high stakes? And so for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to spend some time with y'all walking through an evidence-based model, and you'll get a chance to kind of assess yourself in your organization in terms of where you are with this. So, First, I want you to start at your organization level. We'll start big and then work our way down. Right? Some of y'all work in global organizations. I know because I've seen the attendance roster. Some of y'all have work as single entrepreneurs. So your decision making will be the same with all three. Make sense? The model that's out there deals with 4 main factors, and this comes from a group of people that were at Bain Consulting a while back, and they looked at over 750 companies, and what are the elements that make great decisions? They all surround both effectiveness of those decisions and efficiency. So one element of the effectiveness is when you make critical decisions, you choose the correct or right course of action, either 75% of the time, over 75% of the time, between 51 and 75% of the time, 25 to 50, or less than 25. This is part of the audience participation, okay? So if you would please, on a sheet of paper, no one will see it except you, just put the letter Q, capital or lowercase, it does not matter, and then rate your organization as a whole. Give your organization 4 points. If when you ask that question, it's more than 75% of the time. 3 points if it's between 51 and 75% of the time. 2 points, well, you get the idea, right? So take a moment, jot that down, Q, and then put a number off to the side. I also have to tell you I am a son of the South. You can tell by my accent. And so you will hear me say periodically, are y'all good? And y'all good means, are you ready to move on to the next item? Okay? I've also been told, I've also had it said to me several times, bless your heart. Y'all know what that means, right? Any of you, those of y'all who are not Southerners by birth? Okay, so here's the deal. And I say this because my wife is from upstate New York. Y'all is singular and plural. Yeah. All y'all is only plural. Folks are male and female together. And if you're told, bless your heart, you have to pay very close attention to the body language. Because on the face of it, bless your heart is a compliment. And you get these little old church ladies that will say that. But if bless your heart is accompanied by dropping the head and shaking it left or right a couple of times very slowly, what that really means is, that's code for, you have just been cursed. Because bless your heart stands for, bless his heart. He's doing the best he can with what he has, which isn't all that much. Right? Q, you've got your score 1 through 4, correct? All right. Second piece deals with the efficiency. And the second element, or the second factor with efficiency, goes to speed. So it's the same sort of model as before. You can read it faster and more effectively than I can speak it. So if you would please put the letter S and then the number that within your organization you feel is most like your organization. We good? All right. Moving back to effectiveness. And effectiveness, a second element of effectiveness, deals with yield, which talks about moving from making the decision to actually executing or implementing the decision. And in many organizations, there's a gap between when we say we're going to make a decision and then actually implementing it. So if you would please, those same four models, 4, 3, 2, and 1, the capital letter Y equals, and then choose those 4 out of those 4. One more factor, and that deals with effort. Because with effort, sometimes we make decisions, our organizations or us individually, we will make decisions and it is very, very rapid. We make the decision and we move on. And with other decisions, they just kind of drag on and on and on. So we need to pay attention to that efficiency piece, which is effort. And so in terms of making and executing those decisions, again, you can read more quickly than I can speak. We good? Now, it's my solemn duty to make sure that we understand what's about to happen. You're going to score your result. Excuse me, let me start over. You're going to score your results. And if you don't like the results that you've got, the only person that you can blame is the person in the mirror. Because sometimes we think that we're very, very good, and when we score it, we find, oh, it's really not all that good. But it's okay, because you're talking about your organization as a whole, correct? So here's how we score it. First, a couple of research findings. Number one, it is clear that a sustainable competitive advantage is the organizations and the individuals within those organizations within their ability to actually make and implement decisions. Number two, the three factors of quality, speed, and yield have a multiplicative, not an additive effect. Number three, the whole idea of effort is an anchor or a drag, because the more effort that it takes to make a decision, the less time you have. It's an opportunity cost kind of situation. And then the last two pieces, in the research out there over the 750 companies, there are very few trade-offs. You have to be good in all four of those areas, otherwise you have what's known as the flat tire phenomenon. Making sense? All right. Number five, the very best organizations have a score, when we score it, of about 70 to 72 in terms of total score. Most organizations are not that effective, and they're not that effective primarily because of this multiplicative effect. So there's a lot of room for improvement, and once you diagnose where you think your organization needs some improvement, you then can take steps to do that. So now let's take a look at what the scores look like. Number one, I mentioned the quality, speed, and yield are multipliers. So if you would please multiply your Q score, your S score, and your Y score together. And over on the right-hand side, I have an example. So with my yield, with my effort being 3 divided by 4 is 0.75, and then you multiply those two numbers together. So in this case, you get 18. Go ahead and do your multiplicative piece. And then let's take a look at where you stack up, where your organization stacks up among all those 750 companies. So, Blanco, Mankins, and Rogers, when they did this is the score as of 4 years ago. I have not seen anything lately. They've created a company, and their website focuses on what they call organizational DNA. It's an interesting way of looking at it, but it's derived from this research right here. You can see the quartiles there. Most organizations are somewhere there. And with the organizations with whom I work, we spend most of our time in those two areas there. They're doing good. They're happy. They think they can do more, and the question is, how do they do it? And this gives a good diagnostic tool to help figure out where we might be able to help. Ready? All right, so why is this important? It's important because in many cases, if you look at those four areas, quality, speed, yield, effort, there are elements that happen. And those elements that happen, they cause the drag in some way, shape, or form. And so I've got Tresson and Meredith. Boy, the pressure was on. I met Meredith for the first time today, and I had to make sure that I had that name right, okay? Because I knew Allison's out there as well. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. This is the audience participation part. I'm going to ask you to think through within your organization as a whole, not your unit, but your organization as a whole, to take one of those four areas, quality, speed, yield, and effort, and jot down one of two things. One, if you'll put at the top, put a capital Q, a capital S, a capital Y, or a capital E for quality, speed, yield, and effort. And then jot down, use good handwriting skills, please. Jot down one observation, either in terms of a challenge that you see your organization having, or something that your organization does really well. Whenever I do this with organizations and work with clients, the discussion is very robust. Because what happens is that people say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, I thought I was the only one that was doing this, or having this challenge. So let me offer you a couple of challenges or a couple of comments from some clients with whom I've worked with in the past. We'll start with this one in terms of quality. See if this rings a bell. I get variations of that comment very, very frequently when we look at what's the quality of our decisions. Number two, in terms of the speed of making those decisions. I will tell you that this first comment comes from an engineering group. Okay. All right. Now, I don't say that to disparage the engineering group. I say that because they're very, very specific in terms of the challenges that they see their organization facing. This, I'm sure, is a group in the humanities, okay? Let's keep it simple. Number three, yield. And I'm not even going to go into the part in terms of the effort, because people keep talking about the fact that they spin their wheels, they have to revisit their decisions. Once a decision is talked about, something happens in terms of, in some ways, it's either not clearly communicated, or people say, well, the boss is just saying this, we'll wait 6 weeks or 3 weeks, see if the boss comes back and says this is really important, because the boss generally has gone on to move on to something else. I don't know if that's ever happened with you, but I've seen it happen a lot. So we've talked about, or you've talked about your organization as a whole. I'm going to ask you to go down and drill down a little bit now to your work unit. Now, obviously, if you're an entrepreneur, the only person that you can talk to about that is you, if you're a solo entrepreneur, right? But if you've got 2 or more people in your work group, let's take a look at a CAT scan. Now, I've got these images intentionally, and it takes a moment to figure it out, because in some cases, it's a turtle. It's a North Carolina turtle. Turtles are relatively slow on land, but in the water they're much more mobile and they're much faster. I don't know about you, but I'm of the age where the CAT scan and I are getting a little bit more familiar, just because I'm over 25. Humor. I'm waiting for somebody to say, yeah, you look 25 in dog years. So go back to a decision that you and your team made recently. And if you're a solo entrepreneur, a decision that you made recently on your own. The same sort of questions. One of the things that we talk about that executives don't have a lot of time to do is reflection. This is a chance to do that. So if you think of a decision, a critical decision that you made in recent times, in retrospect, did you make the right decision? And again, a 4 if you strongly agree, 3 if you agree, 2 if you disagree, 1 if you strongly disagree. Looking at those same 4 questions for a decision that you and your team made. So as Ashley mentioned, I serve as the director of the Shelton Leadership Center. We partner with Poole College Management, and we partner with organizations across NC State. And I do a lot of work with organizations both large and small. And what I've always tried to work from is a research-based focus. And if you saw that slide, again, of my background and the fact that multiple industries, multiple levels, I come up with how does all this fit together? And this is basically how it plays out. Number 1, every organization has goals. The goals may differ, but everybody has to have a set of goals. Number 2, you have a strategy. And that strategy focuses on 5 big questions. Where are you going to focus? Who are you going to partner with? Or are you going to do it yourself? What are your differentiators? What's your biggest bang for your buck or your economic logic? And what's your timing and sequence of moves? Those 5 strategic questions are important with any sort of organization, again, whether you're solo or whether you're a part of a large conglomerate. And then on the other side, you have this black box. And most people, once you create a strategy, you say, here's an action plan, and those action plans become tasks, and you organize around those tasks. But if you don't pay attention to the underlying culture within the organization and the people, the knowledge, skills, and abilities, if all those pieces aren't aligned, you don't necessarily get the biggest bang for your buck in your strategy. You don't really set up and you don't meet your goals as effectively as possible. So in a nutshell, this is what we do. We look and help organizations that are trying to improve there. So what does this mean for you? So if you look at those 3 areas, quality, speed, and yield, what are some research-based tools, practices, and lessons that you can learn about how to improve your decision-making process. Number one, in terms of the quality, I will suggest to you that number one, we are all hardwired with a series of decision-making biases. Sometimes we know what they are, other times we don't. There's a lot of research that supports that, ranging all the way from Duke University with Dan Ariely to any major research university focusing on organization behavior focuses on what they call decision-making heuristics. But there's a lot that you can do with it. The key point there is, though, you have to make sure that you open the aperture wide enough so that you get a wide variety of points of view. The picture down at the bottom is an echo chamber. The biggest impediment to the quality of decisions is not getting ideas from lots of different perspectives. You end up getting people who look the same, act the same, respond the same, went to the same school, had the same set of experiences, and it becomes an institutional arrogance at its worst form, where the phrase is, it was not invented here, so it can't be that good. So the image there is of an echo chamber. My recommendation to you is make sure not to have your own personal echo chamber. Make sense? Point number two, decision-making yield. I am amazed because when I teach in the MBA program with Lewis, he teaches an incredible program in terms of entrepreneurship. And your launch is this evening, sir. I've got to get a chance to come back and be there for that because I promised you I would do that. How many young students and young employees don't know what a racing matrix is? So my point to you is, if you don't know what a racing matrix is, look it up on Google. Dr. Google will tell you what it is. Number two, teach your people how that plays out, because this has a direct impact not only in terms of the speed, but also in terms of the effort, because everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and you know what that decision-making process is early on. Common sense, but it's a fundamental. Number three, your speed. Speed comes in two flavors. There will be those very big decisions that you have to make and your organization has to make. Where am I going to focus? Should we merge with this organization? Should we have a strategic alliance? But there are lots of small operational decisions that go on as well. How do you go about doing that? And more importantly, from a leadership standpoint, how do you go about making sure to give you and your ideas the best chance for success? I do work at NC State. We are an incredibly talented engineering and technology school, so I have to have a formula. Here's the formula. Okay? Yeah. But I am not an engineer. My father-in-law is, but I am not. And so I have to make it very, very simple. So it's simply the four arithmetic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And so I've used three of those four. Here's the formula. Credibility is the C. And your credibility is based upon your technical skills, TS, plus H for honesty, I for integrity, divided by E for ego. And I'm going to walk through those. Credibility is critically important, not only in the business sense, but also in our personal lives as well. Here's a picture of our family. Okay? Technical skills. Number one, your technical skills get you in the door, but once you've started, that's simply penny ante. You've got to have the technical skills, but if you focus strictly on what's on your wall, but you don't have these other skills, it just won't work. I could tell you a very poignant story about my son who went to a doctor and we thought that he had something very serious with his lymph glands. They went in, did surgery, and the doctor comes out and says, "Yeah, she's fine." Wait a second, it's our son. "Oh yeah, it was him. Anyway, everything's okay. It was a cool operation. We videotaped it. I'll see you later." Great technical skills, but that doctor had absolutely no bedside manner. Technical skills get you in the door. They don't get you much past that. And your technical skills erode over time. Number two, honesty. This does not have anything to do with a movie that's coming out in a couple of weeks. It does have everything to do with the fact that you need to know what your red lines are, what's right, what's wrong, black and white, no middle ground. You have to know what your values are. You have to be honest about that, and you have to make sure that you're always dealing in an ethical and honest manner. Number 3, integrity. Those of you that know the gentleman on the right know that he's the commissioner of the National Football League. And 2014-2015 season was a very difficult year for the National Football League. I'm not going to go into all of that, but what I am going to tell you is it was instructive to me when they first started looking at the domestic abuse situation. Everybody that they had on the committee were old, white, and male. It was not until the hue and cry justifiably came up that they looked to try to do something a little bit different. And if you've gone through and seen what the NFL commissioner has done over this entire season and the challenges that he's had, this whole idea of integrity has come up over and over again. Not only integrity of himself, but integrity of the National Football League. The last piece deals with ego. And so if you look at the equation, if you have a strong ego and you have to be the smartest person in the room, that number goes up, your credibility goes down. What's most important is that you're very humble, you have a very small ego, because it can't be about you, it's got to be about the organization and the organization's mission. Make sense? So at the end of the day, it's all about that credibility equation. Now that gentleman grew up in Speed, North Carolina, outside of Edgecombe County, small farming community. Enrolled in NC State, joined the military, 38 years, Green Beret, Army Ranger, head of the 18th Airborne Corps, first commanding general at United States Special Operations Command, and then was selected as the 14th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Served under Clinton as well as Bush too. Was known throughout his career for honesty and integrity. That's my boss, General Shelton. And so when he talks about those 5 cornerstones, and he's been decorated by over 16 different foreign governments, he's been knighted by Queen Elizabeth, so I always call him Sir. Right? He says, Chris, you don't have to call me Sir. I said, Sir, let's be clear. You've been knighted. Plus, you're a 4-star general. It is Sir. But when he talks about those 5 cornerstones that are critically important, no matter whether you are in academia, high school student, college, early career professional, solo entrepreneur, executive at a senior level, at a multi-billion-dollar corporation, those 5 cornerstones tie in. So with everything that we do, with our partnership with Poole, with executive education, with everything that we do at the Shelton Leadership Center that focuses on these 5 cornerstones of values-based leadership, that's at our core. So as you see it, it's down there at the bottom where I talk about selfless service and social responsibility interchangeably. So what's next? Well, I started with this slide. You've got a team of people. That team of people focused on individuals. Your job is to help them make decisions faster, more effective, and in a values-based manner so that you're able to accomplish your goals, grow your brand, help more people. It's a virtuous circle. Make sense? I would give you a big finish, but I can't say anything that talks more about than what General Shelton talks about.